So we will start with the Negotiable Instruments Act 1881. Now, anyone, have you read this act, what this act is all about? Can anyone say? Negotiable Instruments Act.
Sorry, ma'am, we couldn't hear.
Okay. Is it audible now? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So anyone, why this act is important? Like, have you read this act before? So Negotiable Instruments Act 1881. Now, when we like study any particular act, year is also very important, right? Sometimes they ask for this year also in exams. So what we can do is that when we say name of the act, along with that we can also mention name of the year, so that it's easier for us to remember that Negotiable Instruments Act is of which year? It is of the year 1881. Now, why this act is important? It is only because of trade, businesses, or any sort of services provided by a person. In those matters, this act becomes very important. Why it becomes very important? For example, one person is having some type of a business. Okay, A is a person, and he is having a business of, for example, fast food. Okay, now what happens? He is doing business on fast food, but because of the present situation, because of lockdown and everything, he is not having enough profit to invest on his business. So he is having this particular business, but because of lockdown, he is not having enough profit. Not having enough profit to invest on his business, but he wants to buy some goods for his business. So what he can do is that he can buy those things from B on credit. So what he can say is that right now I do not have money, but once I make some profit I can repay you that amount. Now, how they will make this transaction? If B is providing any sort of service or any goods or anything to the other person, he also would need some sort of a surety, right? That he would be getting the amount. So there might be certain type of instruments or certain type of modes that may be used by these two persons to do their transaction. So Negotiable Instruments Act basically deals with three different types of instruments that may be used by people who are into some sort of business, providing some services or other things that can be used by them. So Negotiable Instruments Act 1881 is basically relating to three different types of instruments, and it is applicable for businesses, trades, commerce, etc. Now, because this act is relating to business, this act is also important not only for law students but also for business students, CA, CS, and all the banking exams also you would see many questions regarding this particular act. So what happens is that for judiciary now, the entire act may not be that important, or whatever questions, if you are solving some MCQs, right? Whatever questions you would find on internet, those questions might not be important for you because this act is also applicable for banking exams for CACS, right? So they would have a separate sort of questions, and being a law student, we can expect a separate set of questions. For example, they may be asked under which act holidays are decided for banks. So it is Negotiable Instruments Act. But those type of questions we cannot expect for judiciary. What all things we can expect? Basically based on these types of instruments, what are these instruments, and basically sections, they ask questions from sections. I have seen many questions that they were like basic questions only, that which section defines this particular word, or which section contains provision regarding this particular matter. So you should remember the important sections from this act and also study about these three different instruments that we would discuss in our classes. Now, the Negotiable Instruments Act, it came when? It came in 1881. That means it came during British time, right? So this act, before the Scheme Act, at that time also, people were obviously doing certain type of businesses. They were, like buying goods or maybe taking services on credits. So what laws were applicable before this act came into force? It was the English common law that governed any sort of disputes that would arise between people who were dealing with these kind of like businesses or these type of services. So it was English common law that would regulate people. Because that English common law was applicable, all the people who were involved in certain type of businesses on all, what happened is that they were accustomed to following those rules and practices, right? They were habituated following or be guided by those rules only. So when the decision was taken that we should have one act or a statute of ourselves, there were many, many objections were raised by people. So this act is having a very long history. It was like 4 times that they tried to have this act, and something would go wrong. So like that, it took a very long time, and finally this act came into force in 1881. So it was firstly drafted in 1866, but then it was objected, and then again it was redrafted, So finally what happened is that it was 1881 when this act was finally passed. So if you want, you can read this history. I will share this document with you so you can read the history yourself. It's not that important for exam, but I just told you the history that before this act came, it was English common law that governed any type of such kind of dealings, and after that this act came into force, and now this act is what would be applicable in India. So this is what basically the history of this act is all about. Now, Negotiable Instruments Act is having, this entire act is having how many chapters? It is having 17 chapters. Okay, so it is having 17 chapters and 147 sections. So they are divided depending on what type of things it is discussing, like preliminary part. Then it is mentioning what are the 3 different instruments that would be there under NI Act, that who all would be the parties, how it would be, how their duties would be discharged, and all of those provisions, compensation and international laws, penalties in case of dishonor. So depending on the type of thing it is mentioned, it is divided into 17 chapters, and total sections that we have is 147. But again, all these 147 sections are not important for judiciary, but some sections are very important, from where repeated questions would come for any judiciary exams. Now, another important thing which we should know is when this act was enacted and when it came into force. So what is the difference between date of enactment and when it came into force? Anyone? What is the difference?
After the Gazette notification, the act will come into force.
Yeah.
After receiving the President assent, it would be enacted, but after the Gazette notification, it would come into force.
So after receiving President's consent, what happens is that the act would be enacted. The act would be the act would be enacted, but what happens is that we do need certain, facilities in order to ensure that a particular legislation is being followed properly, right? Maybe there would be certain officials who would take a decision regarding certain matters. For certain, some bodies, some committees might be established. That means we need certain preparation before a certain act is made applicable. So this date basically means the date when this act was finally accepted or approved, and this date means when this act would be applicable, when people would be bound by this particular act. So these 2 dates are very important. Many times questions would come from these 2 dates, that when the NI Act was enacted. It was 9th of December 1881. But this act became came into force in 1882 only. It was 1st of April 1882. So you should try to remember these two dates. Many times questions would be asked from these two dates, when it was enacted and when it came into force. Now let's move to the types of instruments. Now, when we say negotiable instrument, that means what? This act is dealing with certain types of instruments. Under this act, we would read about certain types of instruments. So what are these instruments? Negotiable instrument as a term is defined under which section? It is defined under section 13. So you should remember which section defines negotiable instrument, and also which all sections define the different types of instruments that we have under this act, NI Act. So it is section 13 that defines the term negotiable instrument, and under this section it talks about three different types of instruments. It is promissory notes under section 4, bills of exchange under section 5, and checks under section 6. So these are the three different types of instruments that the NI Act or the Negotiable Instruments Act deals with. Any doubts still here? Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am. Clear.
So now what is negotiable instrument then? Can anyone say? So this act is talking about certain types of instruments, right? That may be used by people to maybe buy goods or maybe take services on credit based. So these are certain types of instruments, and there are three types of instruments. But what is negotiable instrument? So it is defined under section 13, and it basically says that negotiable instrument would contain these three types of like instruments.
Which is an alternative for money, which can be used as alternate.
Yeah, like an alternative for money. Like for example, in case of check, what happens is that the person is not given like cash, but the person would be given check that he can withdraw in banks, right? And then he can get the amount. And also these may be used, for example, on a certain date, like the example that we took, right? That A wanted to buy some, like goods for his fast food business, but at that moment he was not having money. So he can use a certain type of negotiable instrument to get the goods on credit, and then later on he can make the payment when he is having money with him. So it is like an alternative mode of money. We can use it. So these two dates are important, and then what is important is what are the three different types of negotiable instruments. It is promissory note, bills of exchange, and check. So sections are like serially only, right? 4, 5, 6. So you can remember these instruments in sequence, that promissory note, bills of exchange, and check. Then you would remember the sections automatically, right? 4, 5, and 6. And what defines negotiable instrument is section 13 of the Act. Now what section 13 says is that section 13 says negotiable instrument would include what? It would include promissory note, bills of exchange, or bills of exchange or check also. So it would include all the three things. Now what is negotiable instrument? But negotiable means what? Negotiable does not mean negotiation, but it means which is transferable. Something which is transferable. And what does instrument mean? Instrument means something which is in a written form. Now what negotiable instrument would mean is a written document which can be transferred. So negotiable instrument basically means a certain type of a written document that can be transferred from one person to another person. If you have any doubts, you can ask, okay?
Okay.
So now we know what is negotiable instrument, right? Instrument basically means a certain type of a written document. And what is this written document? It can be transferred from one person to another. This is what is negotiable instrument. Now, how can we transfer these instruments? It can be transferred by two ways, by endorsement or by delivery. So we will anyways discuss this in detail, like after we know what are the different types of instruments, we will discuss how it can be transferred. So basically there are like two different ways of transfer. First is delivery. If person's name is not mentioned, it can simply be delivered to the other person and transfer would happen. If name is written, then it would be by endorsement. How? On the back side of the page, the other person's name would be written and then it can get transferred. So we will anyways discuss this in detail later on. Now, basically, we should understand what is negotiable instrument. So it is what we have known from this is that it is a written document which can be transferred and it is defined under section 13 of the Act. Now let's look at some of the features of the Negotiable Instrument Act. So features are what? It is in writing. That means negotiable instruments cannot be some like oral commitment or oral things, right? It should be in a written form, because instrument means a written document itself, right? So negotiable instrument should always be in a written form. It should be signed by the maker or the drawer. Now, if someone is making a negotiable instrument, if his signature is not there, right? If today, for example, I write on a certain document that I am taking, like, for example, I am buying goods from B of rupees 50,000, but I do not have money at this point of time. So after 3 months, I will pay the money. If my signature is not there, and tomorrow if B makes a claim on the basis of that paper, what I can say is that this is not even written by me, right? So obviously signature is needed in order to validate that particular document. So it should always be signed by the maker, the person who is making that particular document. Next is there must be a promise or order to pay. So it may include a promise. I may promise that fine, I have taken goods of 50,000 rupees. So I promise to pay you the amount within 5 months or within 3 months. Or it may be an order. The other person may say that I have given you goods without taking money, so you should give me the money within 2 months. So it may be what? It may be a promise or an order to pay. Basically, it would be relating to some sort of a payment. It would be in a written form and it would be signed by the person just in order to authenticate the document. And also how it would be done, it may be a promise or it may be an order. So promise and order part you would understand when we discuss the instruments in detail. Next, what is the feature is the promisee. The promise or order must be unconditional. That means what? Unconditional means there should not be any other condition. So if I am buying goods for my fast food business, I cannot put a condition that only if I make enough profit, I would give you 50,000 rupees. If I cannot make profit, then I would not pay, right? It cannot be conditional. I cannot put any condition on it. If I have bought something from someone and I have promised to pay, I should pay it, right? So there should not be any other conditions that are mentioned to it, and it should be unconditional. It must call for payment in money and money only. That means it is only relating to money. Payment cannot be in terms of kinds, right? I cannot say that I have borrowed, like I bought certain goods for my fast food business. Now I do not have money, so I will be feeding you fast food for free for the next 2 months. I cannot say like that. Why? Because it is only in terms of money. So I cannot promise the person that you can eat whatever you like from my fast food stall for like 2 months. I cannot say that. It would be only in terms of money. So money only would be taken and money only would be given in return. It should call for payment of certain sum. Now, certain sum means the amount also has to be specified. If I have taken 50,000, I should mention that I am going to pay you 50,000 back. I cannot be like, okay, fine, like I would be paying you 30% of my profit on the month of July. So whatever profit I make, I would pay you only 30% of that. Why? Because that is uncertain. How much profit I'm going to make with the fast food stall, that is not a certain thing, right? So the amount should be mentioned properly and clearly, that how much amount would be paid to the other person. Next is how it would be done. It is again same only how transfer would be done, right? That delivery and endorsement. And consideration is also presumed to have been passed. That means if I have, it's like what we got in contract, right? That there should be consideration. So consideration is already there. I have already taken the goods from him. So I'm going to pay him 50,000 rupees based on any of the negotiable instruments. So is it clear till now? Features, anyone having any doubts on any point?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So now based on this, right, what we have studied, what a negotiable instrument is. So is like currency notes, can we consider it as a negotiable instrument?
No, ma'am.
Why cannot we consider it?
It is not included in the definition.
It is not included in the definition. Okay. So what happens is that we are saying what we are making a promise. What it says, we are making a promise that we want to pay the money to the other person. Now in currency notes also, if you see, right, over here, if you see in any currency note, there is a promise that is made. So if you can read from this, it is written, I promise to pay the bearer the sum of 50 rupees, because it's a 50 rupees note. So whatever the amount is, there would be one promise that is written over here in any currency note that you would see. That means what? Whoever, bearer means what? Whoever is carrying the, whoever would get the money, right? That I promise to the bearer, whomever I am giving, I promise to give him rupees 50,000. So there is a promise that is made under this also, like currency notes also. But currency notes are not included under the definition of negotiable instruments. So currency notes would not be negotiable instruments. Why? Because the Negotiable Instruments Act, it specifically mentions that currency note would not come under the purview of this particular act. So you should remember this, that even though there is a promise to pay the amount to the other person, it cannot be considered as a negotiable instrument. Now, where is this act applicable? Can anyone say? It is applicable to the whole of India. So like most of the other acts, it is section 1 of the act that talks about the applicability of this act, and it says that this act is applicable to the whole of India, including the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Okay. And it is applicable to what? It is applicable to 3 types of instruments: promissory notes, bills of exchange, and checks. These are the 3 different types of instruments to which this particular act would be applicable. And section 1 specifically mentions that NI Act will not apply to currency note. So because of this particular section only, currency notes are not included under this act, even though there is a promise to make a payment of a certain amount. And it is not applicable, the NI Act is also not applicable to any customary instruments like hundis, unless and until the parties thereto agrees to be governed by the provisions of this act. So now what happened? This act came into force only in like 1881, right? Only in 1881 this act came. Before this also, there were certain types of instruments or certain types of procedures that were followed by people in order to do business, in order to buy goods on credits, right? So there were certain customary practices that customary instruments were already existing even before this act came into force. So it says that this act would not be applicable to those customary instruments. One example is of hundis. So it would not be applicable to those instruments. But if the parties who are making that instruments, if the parties agree that we would be governed by NI Act, then it would come under Negotiable Instruments Act. Or what happens is that there might be a certain type of customary instrument that people of a certain community or a locality are following. But what would happen in case there is a dispute regarding that? The customary practices are not saying anything. How a dispute would be resolved regarding that? The customary practices are not saying anything. In those matters also, this act may be applicable to those instruments. So usually it is these 3 instruments only: promissory note, bills of exchange, and check. It is not applicable to currency note. It is never applicable to currency note, but it may be applicable to customary instruments like hundis if the parties agree, or if the customary practices or the rules are silent about how a dispute is to be resolved. So anyone having any doubts still here?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Now, what are hundis? Hundis basically mean a certain type of customary instrument that was followed by people. So there, this is like a picture that I got from Reserve Bank of India website. So if you see, they have like multiple examples of different types of hundis that were applicable. So it basically means a, you know, like a document in an Oriental language, and it is a promise basically, you know, like regarding a certain type of transaction that has taken place based on credits. So you can just understand hundis means a traditional or a customary type of instrument regarding which this act says that if parties agree, it may be applicable. If customary laws are silent, it may be applicable. And other than hundis also, there might be certain other types of customary practices that may not be very much known to us, but it may be applicable to a certain community or a certain locality only. So regarding those also, this act may be applicable. So this is what you should know, that this act is applicable to entire India, and it specifically mentions regarding these three different types of instruments only. This part is clear, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Now we should understand, so we know what is a negotiable instrument, right? That it is like a written promise or a written order that is made for payment of a certain sum of money, but the money should be certain, and also to whom payment is to be made, that also should be certain. Now we should understand what the different types of instruments are that are mentioned under the NI Act. So there are three different types of instruments that are there under NI Act. It is promissory note, bills of exchange, and checks. These are the only three types. So we would look at each of these, you know, like types of instruments and how they are different from the other ones that we would understand. If you want to see what hundis look like, you can just type hundis Reserve Bank of India, and then you would get one link. So there they have given many examples of like different types of hundis. You can just have a look at that, all the pictures they have put. Now the first type of instrument that is mentioned under NI Act is promissory note. So it is section 4 of the act. Try to remember the section. Many times I have seen questions asked on which section defines promissory note. So it is section 4 of the Negotiable Instruments Act that defines the term promissory note. Now what is a promissory note? The word itself indicates promissory note. That means what? Promissory means making a promise. Note means some written thing, right? So it is very much understood from the name itself. Promissory note basically means like a written note where a person is making a promise. And we already know that negotiable instrument is with regard to money only, right? That means this promise that is in a written form would be regarding payment of money only. So the term itself clearly tells us that it is a type of a written note for payment of a certain money to the other person whose name may be mentioned there. So what is promissory note? A promissory note is an instrument in writing, not being a bank note or a currency note. So again, in definition also they have mentioned that currency notes are not included under NI Act. Bank note and currency note same only. So currency note or bank notes are not included under this particular act. It would be governed by the Reserve Bank of India Act and not the Negotiable Instruments Act. So what promissory note is, like why they have mentioned specifically here is because in currency note also we are making a promise, right? That we want to make a payment of 50 rupees, 100 rupees, 1000, 2000, whatever it is, to the other person. So because there is a promise in currency note, so they have specifically mentioned in definition only that currency notes would not come under this particular act. Now, what is promissory note? A promissory note is an instrument in writing containing an unconditional undertaking signed by the maker to pay a certain sum of money to the drawer. Now, who is a drawer? The other person to whom payment would be given. Who is the maker? Maker is the person who is making that particular document or who has agreed to make the payment to the other person. So what promissory note is? Promissory note is basically an instrument in writing containing an unconditional undertaking. So it should be what? It should be an unconditional thing signed by the maker. So signature is also needed in order to validate the document and to pay a certain sum of money. Again, it should be only in terms of money. It cannot be like I am taking goods from you amounting rupees 50,000. So you are free to eat whatever you want from my fast food stall. I cannot say that. It should be only in terms of money. So what I can say is that I can say that I have taken like 50,000 rupees. So I promise you to pay the amount on so and so date, and like I would put my signature. So this is what is promissory note. So from the name itself, you try to remember. Note means it is like a written note. Promissory means it is promising. What it is promising? Definitely to make a payment or in terms of money. So promissory note basically means a written instrument or a written document wherein one person would promise to make a like payment of a certain like definite amount of money to the other person, and whoever is making the promise, that person would put his signature also, just in order to validate the document, so that later on he cannot say that it's not like a genuine document. I have never promised to give you such payment or anything. So this is what the definition is all about. This is clear, right? Definition.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so now these are some of the examples. Okay, I promise to pay B rupees 500 on 15th of June 2020. Another one is I acknowledge myself to be indebted to B in rupees 1000 to be paid on demand for value received. Another example would be I promise to pay B rupees 500 7 days after my marriage with C. So out of these three examples, so is it a negotiable instrument like promissory note? Can you tell me? A, B and F, which all are promissory notes?
Only A.
Only A, acknowledge indebted to be paid on demand for value received. So in this also what happens is that they should mention the like date in general in promissory notes also, but they have not mentioned the date. They have just said that on demand I would be making the payment, like when the other person would give that note I would make the payment. So I don't know why this example is given, because in promissory notes we do mention the date in order to ascertain when the amount would be like amount is to be paid. But this definition is like example is given in direct. I don't know why. But yeah, first one is definitely a type of promissory note, and F is not a promissory note. Why? Because it says I promise to pay rupees 500 7 days after my marriage with C. First of all, it is not certain whether the person is going to marry C or not. Secondly, it is not sure when the marriage is going to take place, right? So this is not certain, and it would not be an example of promissory note. So basically, these are not examples of promissory note. I promise to pay B 500 and all other sums which shall be due to him. So we have not specified what is the amount of these other sums. So it should be always certain. I promise to pay B 500 rupees to deliver to him my black horse on 1st January next. So these are like not certain. So whatever is not certain, that would not be included. It should always be what? It should always be in writing. It should always be unconditional. There cannot be any condition like after marriage, 7 days after marriage, like that. It should always be signed by the person who is making the promise and who is making this document. And what happens is that the amount that is to be paid should also be a certain sum of money only. So it also mentions that these are like not promissory notes because something or the other is not certain in like these examples. Okay, so now we know what a promissory note is, that it is what? It is a written document. It is unconditional promise to make a payment. It is signed by the person who is making it, and it is a promise to pay a certain definite sum of money. It is not like I would pay I would pay 5% of my savings, I would pay 5% of my profits. It should not be like that. It should always be a definite sum of money. Now, this is an example of how a promissory note may look like. So this is just like a template, just for your understanding. So it is what? Date would be mentioned on which date this promissory note has been made. So date, month and year would be mentioned. The amount would be mentioned that is to be paid. Also place would be mentioned. So what it is saying that I so and so person promised to pay so and so rupees to so and so person. So what happens is that in this particular case is that the person would also put his like signature and all. Now, for example, only name is mentioned. Okay, I am making a promissory note with someone and I have just written my name. Like I, Meenakshi, promised to pay a certain sum of like 5,000 a certain sum of 5,000 rupees to Sukriti. Now, what happens in this particular case is that no one would know who is Meenakshi, who is Sukriti, right? So what we should mention ideally is that we would mention our addresses also, so that it is certain that this person is only the one who has made the promise, so that later on I cannot see that, like it's not me, maybe some other person. There would be hundreds of Meenakshis, so it's not me. So this is why name, address, everything would be mentioned so that it is like very much certain. Amount would be mentioned properly, place also, date, time, everything would be mentioned, and this is how the promissory note looks like. Now, who makes a promissory note? The person who is like supposed to pay, right? For example, if I have taken goods from someone amounting rupees 50,000, it is me who will make the promissory note, right? Because I will make the promise that I will pay you the amount. So it is the person who is supposed to pay who will make the promissory note, and also he would put his signature. Now, this is an example of a promissory note. I bought 10 laptops of 50,000 rupees each on credit from B, and also issued a promissory note mentioning that he will pay 5 lakh rupees to B. What happened is that, for example, a person bought 10 laptops amounting 50,000 rupees, that equals to 5 lakh rupees in total. So what he does is that he is not paying the amount upfront. What he has done is that he is issuing a promissory note to the other person saying that on 1st of December 2020, I will make this payment of 5 lakhs rupees to you under this promissory note. So this note is also signed by the person and he gave it to the other person. So it would be what? It would be an example of promissory note because there is no other conditions mentioned, right? For example, if I am, like I am a dealer of laptops, I took 10 laptops from the other person and said that I would pay you 5 lakhs rupees only if I can sell all these laptops, like before 1st of December 2020. So it cannot be like that. It has to be what? It has to be sorted that whether I am making any use or any profit with these goods or not, I would pay you the amount on this particular certain date only. So this is like an example of promissory note. Now let's look at the features of promissory note. It should be what? It should be written and not oral. We already know from the features of NI, negotiable instruments, right? That it is what? It should be written and it cannot be an oral promise. The promise should be what? It should be unconditional. I cannot put a condition that only if I am able to sell these 10 laptops, I would pay you 5 lakhs rupees on this particular date. It should be unconditional. No matter what, I would make the payment. The amount must be certain, definite, and well mentioned. It should be always in terms of money. It cannot be in terms of any kind, right? It cannot be that you give me 10 laptops, I would be providing you some sort of, like I would type all your documents for lifetime. It cannot be like that. It should always be certain, definite, and well mentioned in the note itself. The promissory note should be signed by the maker or drawer. That means the person who is making it, the maker or drawer. So it should always be signed by the person, so that later on he cannot refuse that I am not bound, this is not authentic, this is not genuine, or things like that. Next is payee must be a definite person. So it cannot be like I would make in for example, I bought these laptops and I said that I would pay 5 lakhs rupees. To whom I will make, that also has to be certain, right? So it should also mention the person to whom I will make the payment, so that the person can claim the money, right? Otherwise, if no name is mentioned, then it will be what? It will be difficult to ascertain. So everything should be certain, everything should be in a written proper format only in case of promissory note. And what you need to remember is promissory note basically means a promise in a form of a note, and it is made by the person who is supposed to make the payment. There would be only two parties, maker or drawer, the person who is supposed to make the payment, and the other party would be the drawee to whom the payment would be given. This is clear?
Yes, ma'am.
So we have finished promissory note. If you have any doubts or any questions, you can ask, or otherwise we will move to the next instrument. So from promissory note, what we understood, it is section 4 of the Act, right? 4 of the NI Act that mentions promissory note. There are two parties and it is made by the person who is supposed to make the payment. Now, next type of instrument that we have is under section 5 of the Act. What is it? It is bills of exchange. Now, it is what? It is bills of exchange. What is bills of exchange? It mentions a bill of exchange is an instrument in writing. Again, it is also in writing, containing an unconditional order. So it is also unconditional. But in case of promissory note, it was a promise, right? In case of bills of exchange, it would not be a promise. It is what? It is an order signed by the maker. Again, it should also be signed by the person who is making it, directing a certain person to pay a certain sum of money only to or to the order of a certain person or to the bearer of the instrument. Now, what does this definition mean? It basically means that bill of exchange is also a written document, just like promissory note, but it is not a promise. Rather, it is in terms of an order. It is also signed by the maker, the person who is making the bills of exchange. And what happens is that there is a direction. In promissory note, we saw that there is a promise, but in bills of exchange, what it is a direction. So in case it is what? It is a direction, directing a certain person. What direction is given? Directing a person whose name would be mentioned in bills of exchange. Directing what? To make a certain payment in terms of money to a certain person. So who would be the person whose name would be mentioned in the document? To that person. What happens is that it would make an order to like make a payment in terms of money. Now, in order to understand this definition, let's look at the parties who would be there. So in case of promissory note, there would be two persons. One would make the promise, other one would get the money in return. In case of bills of exchange, there may be three parties. Who all are the parties? First is drawer. the person who would make the bill of exchange, and also what happens is that he would put his signature. There would be another person who is the drawee. That means the buyer that means the person who is supposed to pay. There is one more person, the payee, who will get the payment. Now, why we have three different persons, we would understand with an example. For example, let's take the previous example only, okay? In previous example, what happened? A bought 10 laptops of 50,000 rupees each from another person, and he promised that I would pay 5 lakhs rupees on 1st of December 2020. In this case, what happens? Same case only, right? In this case also, A bought 10 laptops amounting 50,000 rupees each, which would be total of 5 lakhs rupees from B on credits. But in this case, A is not doing anything. He just bought the laptops. So major part is done by B. What B has done? So it's like two situations are there, okay? In first case, A has bought 10 laptops from B, and it is amount of 5 lakhs rupees that he needs to pay to B. In another case, what happens is that B is also into some business, okay? What he has done is that he has also bought some office tables from another person C, and the amount is also 5 lakhs rupees. So that means A has bought something from B, and he is supposed to pay 5 lakhs rupees to B. Again, B has also bought some other goods from another person, and he is supposed to pay 5 lakhs rupees to this person, which is not yet paid. This is clear? Any doubts? Example? Is the example clear?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay. So what happened in this case is that there are two situations, right? One person bought certain things from the other, 5 lakhs rupees is to be paid, and this other person has also bought something from someone else. He is also supposed to pay 5 lakhs rupees. Now what B can do is that rather than taking money from A and then again giving it to C, what he can do is that he can directly ask A to make the payment to C, because anyways the amount is same, right? 5 lakhs rupees only. So what he can do is that he can direct him to pay the amount to the other person. So in case B can issue a bills of exchange to A, directing him to pay 5 lakhs rupees to C. So what happens is that two debts would be settled in one single instrument and at one time only, right? There are two debts. It's not like A would pay to B, one debt is clear. B would again pay to C the same amount, the second debt would be clear. Rather than doing all of this, what we can do is that directly we can settle one at one time only, right? Both these two debts. So what B can do is that B can ask A to make the payment directly to C, and then two debts would be settled. But what is the difference between promissory note and bills of exchange? In promissory note, A was making the instrument, right? A was making this document. He said that I promised to pay 5 lakhs rupees to B on so and so day. In bills of exchange, what happens is that it is not made by A, but rather it is made by B. So what B can do is that, for example, this debt was not there. This debt was not there. Then B only can take the amount. And if this debt is there, he can ask A to make the payment to this other person. So what he can do is that it is in the form of an order. Why? Because B is the person to whom payment should be made, right? So there is no point of making a promise or anything. So what B will do is that he will give an order to A. What order? Either to make the payment to him or to this other person. So this is an example of bills of exchange. Again, name, place, date, those things would be mentioned, and the time would be mentioned, that 60 days after this date. This date means the date that would be mentioned, on which date the bill of exchange was basically made. 60 days after this date, pay, for example, C, a sum of 5 lakhs rupees for the value received. Now here it may be pay to C, or it may be himself also, right? So basically in bills of exchange, what happens is that the person to whom payment is to be made, he will make the bills of exchange. He may ask the other person to make the payment to himself or to someone else to whom he is supposed to pay. So this is what bills of exchange is. Is it clear, the example and this format part? If you have any, like confusion, you can ask.
No confusion, ma'am.
Okay, so is it clear, right? Like promissory note and bills of exchange, why we need two different things? That part is clear, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is promissory note would be made by A, bills of exchange should be made by B. It is in promise, in the form of a promise. This is in form of an order, and it can be asking to make the payment to him or to someone else also. So what happens now here is that B has made this particular bills of exchange, but it is only B who is making it, putting his signature and everything. But payment is to be made by the other person, right? Payment is to be made by A. So after 60 days, A might say that I have never, bought any laptops from you. I'm not supposed to pay you 5 lakhs rupees. A can say like that. So what B will do is that before delivering this 10 laptops to him, he would take his signature with a note that it is accepted. So what A will do is that A would write accepted. He will put his signature, his name, his address and everything, so that this document is made authentic. So in this particular case, what happens is that it is the other person who will have to accept also. In promissory note, there is no concept of accepting, because the person himself is making a promise. He himself is making a note with his signature. So there is no concept of accepting. And the other person would anyways accept, right? Because he would be getting the amount. So he would anyways accept. So there is no concept of acceptance. But because this is in form of an order, we need acceptance of the other person also in order to make it a valid, valid instrument. So this is what is a bill, bills of exchange, and the difference between these two. So in bills of exchange, now there may be three parties. It may be what? It may be A, it may be B, and C. In case this other debt was not there, there may be only two parties also in bills of exchange. So in bills of exchange, there may be two parties or three parties. Why? It is drawer, the seller who made the bills of exchange. The seller who sold 10 laptops, he will make the bills of exchange and he would be the drawer. Who is the drawee? Drawee is the person who bought 10 laptops and agreed that he would be making payment of 5 lakhs rupees. Payee may be C, the other person to whom the seller has to make the payment. Or in case there is no other person, drawee and payee may be the same person only. So B itself may be the drawee and also the payee. So here B can play like two roles. So in bills of exchange, there may be three parties, not like there will be three parties. There may be three parties or there may be two parties also. One person would be fulfilling two roles. Drawer and payee may be the same person also. Parties are clear, right? Who all would be the parties?
Yes.
Okay, so this is why we have like three parties, right? It may be three parties. Drawer can also play the role of payee in case he do not have, like any other debt. He is not supposed to make any other payment to any other person. And this is the example of a bills of exchange. Now, what are the features of bills of exchange? Again, it should also be in a written form. It cannot be oral document in like oral mode. The order must be unconditional. So whatever order is made to the other person, it should be what? It should be unconditional. There cannot be any other condition. There cannot be a condition that like only if you are able to sell those laptops or make some profit with that, then only you are supposed to pay 5 lakhs rupees, or only if I am alive you are supposed to pay 5 lakhs rupees. So there cannot be any other condition to it. It should always be in a written form and unconditional. Next is the amount must be certain, definite and well mentioned. Same like promissory note, the amount should also be in terms of money, and it should be specifically mentioned. If it's 5 lakhs, it should be 5 lakhs. It's not like, like whatever amount like whatever amount you have, you are supposed to pay me, that or you should pay. It's not like that. It should always be clearly mentioned what is the amount that is to be paid. It must be accepted by the drawee. Drawer and payee may be the same person or different person. So like how we explained that these two may be the same person, or it may be different persons also. In case the drawer is not bound to pay any money to any other person and he wants to take the money himself, it may be the same person, drawer or payee. And also bills of exchange should always be accepted by the drawee, because the drawer is making an order to the other person, right? So in this particular case, A has to accept the bills of exchange to make it a valid legal document, and in order to for it to be binding on him. So this is what is bills of exchange. So now can anyone tell what are the, like main differences between bills of exchange and promissory note? Why we need like two different instruments?
In promissory note, there is only two people always. In bill of exchange, there can be three people.
Yeah.
And bill of exchange can be transferred by endorsement to the payee.
Yeah, or directly also it can be transferred. Initially only he can write C's name rather than mentioning his name. So directly also it can be like make the payment to others, right? And
promissory note cannot be transferred like that.
Yeah. Also, like sections are different, right? It is section 4 and section 5 is providing further definition. So it is true. So these are like some of the differences between a promissory note and bills of exchange. So promissory note is what? Promissory note is defined in section 4 of NI Act, and bills of exchange is defined in section 5. Sections are like very important. These three sections too you should remember anyhow. Now parties, in case of promissory note, there would be the maker or the drawer who is supposed to make the payment or who is making the promise. There would be the payee who would be receiving the amount from the other person. There is no concept of, like acceptance or anything. The maker would make the promissory note and he would put his signature for it to become valid. In case of bills of exchange, what happens? There may be three parties, drawer, drawee, payee. But drawer can play two different roles also. He can also become the payee in case he wants to take the money himself. In case of promissory note, what it is? It contains a promise to pay. The person is making a promise that I will make the payment to you. But in case of bills of exchange, what it is that it is an order to pay. The other person is giving order to the other person that you should make a payment of 5 lakhs rupees to me. So this is like a promise, and this is in the form of an order. In case of promissory note, it is issued by the debtor, but in case of bills of exchange, it is issued by the creditor. So to whom the payment is to be made, that person would make this particular, like bills of exchange. But in case of promissory note, it would be made by the debtor who is supposed to make the payment. So who is making the, like this instrument is also different. Like in this case, it is debtor. In this case, it is the creditor who is making it. No acceptance is needed as it is made by the debtor. So we do not need any acceptance because debtor is himself saying that I will pay you 5 lakhs rupees. So there is no any sort of acceptance. But in this case, because it is made by the creditor, there has to be acceptance from the debtor also, so that he accepts it and makes it a legally binding document on him, putting his signature and everything. So here acceptance would be needed. Now, drawer and payee cannot be the same person. So in this particular case, both the persons cannot be the same, right? For example, if I have bought 5 laptops from you, and I'm making a promise that, okay, fine, I bought 5 laptops from you, so I will be giving 5 lakhs rupees to me. That means what? You are not getting anything, right? I only got the laptops. I only got 5 lakhs rupees. So in promissory note, drawer and payee cannot be the same person, can never be the same person. But in bills of exchange, they can be the same person. Why? Because drawer is what? It is the creditor who would be making the bills of exchange. So this is like the basic difference between like these two different types of instruments. So any questions on this? Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Fine. So now it is only for prelims that you need this, right?
Yes.
NI Act.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So what we will do is that so that you know, like you also have a practice on what type of questions may be asked. So what we will do is that we will try to solve some, you know, like objective type questions on whatever topics we are doing. So for this part, I have written some questions that we will discuss so that it's also easier for us to understand what type of questions may be expected in exam from this part. Okay. So you can try to solve these questions.
Nice.
When Negotiable Instrument Act enacted?
Option B.
Option B. Yes.
Yes.
So it is 9th December 1881. Now see, if even if you know, like, okay, fine, you know, like the date is 9th December, but you should also know the year, right? So same type of year, same dates are mentioned, right? If you know the date also, if you don't remember the month also, then also it might be difficult. So you should remember the exact date, that it is 9th December 1881 when this act was enacted. Next one.
C.
Yes, it is C. 1/4/1882. 1st of April 1882. So this act was enacted in 81, but it came into force in 82. 1st of April, right? Yeah, 1st of April. Next one.
C.
C.
Yes, it is
Whole of
applicable to the whole of India. So these two questions are like similar type of questions only, just that options are different. So what would be the answer for question number 4?
Yeah.
It is? Yeah, it is A. The
Yes.
whole of India, including the Union Territories of Jammu and Kashmir. So it is whole of India, including Jammu and Kashmir. So see, like how they have given the options, right? It's even if we know that it's whole of India, the options might be a little confusing how they have given. Like same question only. This is very easy. Whole of India, they have clearly written. What they have written here, those states as notified by union government from time to time in the official gazette, the whole of India except union territories of Jammu and Kashmir and northeastern states. So like that they have given as if like it's not applicable to some parts of India, or this looks like very much, you know, like what they have given. So you should know it is the entire India, means entire India, no other conditions are there. So it would be answer A, first option only. Next one.
All the above.
Yes,
All the above.
yeah, it is D. All of the above are correct. It is these three instruments only. Even if it is like, you know, applicable for some customary instruments or other things, that question you would not get in these things, because that is like conditional, right? Only if parties agree that they would be governed by an Act, or if the local laws or customary laws are silent, then only it would be applicable. So that thing they won't give. So you can just remember these three instruments only. Next one.
All the above.
Yeah, it is all of the above. It is what? It is always written and signed. Recovery. So it is always in terms of money only, right? That one person would get money from the other person. So it is what? It is always for recovery, and also it is negotiable, right? We already mentioned that it is transferable. So it would be, answer would be all of the above.
Definition. B.
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 Which one? D.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
D,
so we
D.
so we discussed that promissory note is defined under section 4,
Defined.
right? Yeah.
Section 4. Yes.
So they have just mentioned function, role, scope. What is the, like scope, role? So these things are not given. It is the definition which is given under section 4. So which section defines bills of exchange?
5.
5.
5. And which section defines check?
6.
6.
6.
Not, okay, 6. Yeah. And negotiable instrument?
13.
30.
Oh,
Yeah, it is 30. Next one.
Money payable.
Yeah.
Money
Must be
payable on
certain.
which,
Must be certain. Yes.
yeah, it must be certain. So it cannot be like some amount of money, some percentage of profit, some percentage of something. It cannot be like that. It should always be what? It should always be certain sum of money only should be mentioned. So this is all about this class. Like we discussed 2 of the instruments. Why? Because they are, like kind of related. If we discuss like 3 of the instruments, it might become a little confusing, discussing about their differences, similarities and all. So we will continue with checks in next class and all the other, like related topics. And also I will try to find some MCQs related to that particular topic. Okay. That might be useful for
Okay.
judiciary. Yeah. Fine
Yes.
then. So I'm ending this meeting. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.